Hello and welcome to KLM Institute,
where we dive into some of the most pressing issues making headlines around the world. Today, we have a truly tragic and complex story to explore: the crash of an Azerbaijani Airlines plane near Aktau, Kazakhstan, that has left many questions unanswered. This is a story that has gripped people worldwide, with intense speculation, government investigations, and mounting concerns about the cause behind this devastating tragedy. On December 25, 2024, an Embraer 190 aircraft, operated by Azerbaijan Airlines, was making its way from Baku, Azerbaijan, to Grozny in Russia's Chechen Republic when disaster struck. The plane, carrying 67 people, including passengers from Azerbaijan, Russia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, crashed just 3 kilometers from Aktau, located on the Caspian Sea coast of Kazakhstan. Tragically, 38 people lost their lives, while 29 survived the harrowing crash. Initially, the cause of the crash was explained away as a bird strike. According to reports, the pilot tried to make an emergency landing after hitting a flock of birds, which led to the plane losing control. However, that explanation didn't sit well with many aviation experts, military analysts, and independent Russian media, who raised significant doubts about this theory. The doubts soon grew when footage from the crash site revealed something unexpected: holes in the tail section of the aircraft that resembled the kind of damage you'd see when a missile hits. The conversation shifted rapidly when Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev revealed shocking new details. He stated that the plane had been severely damaged by ground fire while flying over Russian territory near the city of Grozny. In fact, Aliyev said that the damage was so significant that it almost caused the plane to lose control. He also mentioned that electronic warfare had been involved, which further complicated the situation. The tail of the plane, according to Aliyev, had been struck by weapons fire, making the bird strike theory look more and more implausible.
The Russian side must apologize to Azerbaijan. Secondly, it must acknowledge its guilt. Thirdly, those responsible must be punished, brought to criminal responsibility, and compensation must be paid to the Azerbaijani state, to the injured passengers and crew members. These are our conditions. The first of these was fulfilled yesterday. I do hope that the other conditions will also be accepted.
What makes this situation even more troubling is the growing suspicion that the plane may have been hit by a Russian surface-to-air missile. The idea that the plane could have been downed by a missile shot from a Russian air defense system has become a hot topic, especially after reports emerged that the crash site showed signs of missile damage. Independent media outlets, like Meduza and Mediazona, published images and analysis that pointed to damage on the plane's tail, consistent with a missile impact. Survivors reported hearing an explosion shortly before the aircraft started its rapid descent. As the evidence mounted, the idea of a missile strike seemed to gain more traction. What's even more perplexing is the location and timing of the crash. The region near Grozny, where the plane was flying, had been a hotbed of military activity due to the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Russian forces have been on high alert for Ukrainian drones targeting military positions in the area. It's possible that the air defense systems in place, already on edge because of the drone threat, could have misidentified the civilian plane as a hostile target. Flight tracking data further fueled suspicions. According to Flight Radar 24, the plane experienced significant radar jamming and spoofing near Grozny, with parts of its flight path disappearing from radar screens. This type of interference is typically seen when there's an active attempt to disrupt or confuse tracking systems. Adding to the mystery, The aircraft's movements during its final moments suggested that it was struggling with altitude control, which is a typical result of damage to the plane's electrical and hydraulic systems, damage that could have been caused by a missile strike. Experts who have analyzed the crash also cast doubt on the bird strike theory. Aviation analyst Heinrich Grossbongart pointed out that a bird strike would likely have caused engine failure but would not have caused the erratic behavior observed on the flight path. He compared this situation to the famous U.S. Airways Flight 1549 emergency landing, where a bird strike resulted in a power loss but the plane remained fully controllable. In contrast, the behavior of the Azerbaijani Airlines flight before the crash suggested catastrophic damage, which is much more consistent with the impact of a missile. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture here. The crash site, located in Kazakhstan, has brought authorities from multiple countries into the investigation, including Azerbaijan, Russia, Kazakhstan, and Brazil. Since the plane was an Embraer model, Brazil is also involved in the investigation. While the investigation is still ongoing, one thing is certain: the cause of this crash is far from clear-cut. Was it an unfortunate case of misidentification in a region embroiled in conflict, or was there something more deliberate at play? It's also important to note the tense relationship between Azerbaijan and Russia. Azerbaijan, while maintaining good relations with Russia, could find its diplomatic ties tested by this tragedy. President Aliyev has already made it clear that Azerbaijan expects Russia to take responsibility. He has called for a formal apology from Moscow, an acknowledgement of guilt, criminal accountability for those responsible, and compensation for the victims. Aliyev also signed a decree posthumously awarding the 3 crew members killed in the crash the title of National Hero of Azerbaijan, a poignant tribute to those who lost their lives. As the investigation continues, the tragic loss of life remains a stark reminder of the risks involved in flying near conflict zones. With military activity and air defense systems constantly on alert, the line between civilian and military targets can sometimes blur, leading to devastating consequences. Experts are now calling for more stringent measures to ensure that civilian aircraft are better protected from misidentification, especially in regions where military tensions are high. This incident also raises important questions about the future of air travel in conflict zones. We live in an age where drone warfare is becoming more common, and the use of air defense systems is widespread. The risk of misidentification of civilian aircraft is a serious concern that needs to be addressed if we are to prevent future tragedies like this one. So, what do we know for sure? The cause of the crash is still under investigation, but the growing evidence points toward a missile strike, possibly from a Russian air defense system. Whether this was a tragic accident caused by misidentification or a deliberate action, only time will tell. But one thing is clear: the families of the victims deserve answers, and the international community must work together to ensure that air travel remains safe, even in regions with ongoing conflicts. As we await further updates, this tragic event has already sent shockwaves through the global aviation community and raised critical questions about air safety in areas of military conflict. Whether the crash was caused by a technical failure, a bird strike, or a missile attack, it's clear that this will be a case that continues to unfold in the coming weeks and months. Stay tuned for more updates as the investigation progresses.